Hi, everyone. Welcome to Minorities in Film's first office hour of 2025. This is the office hour with the one and only strategist, filmmaker, overall rule breaker, Zaina.
I love it.
And this is going to be a really fun conversation because if you follow either of our communities, you know that last year we created a bonus season for a micro budget film podcast. And that has been now just a resource for all of you who are starting independent filmmaking to go in and find things that you can use and tools you can use to get the stories made regardless of Hollywood. So this topic is Anti-Hollywood Filmmaking 101. I'm Brittany Franklin, the founder of Minorities in Film, a collective for people of color and people with disabilities that are professionals in film, media, and television. We started in 2020, so this year is going to be a 5-year anniversary. And I'm so excited to be here with like a friend, mentor, inspiration, Zaina. I'm going to pass it over to her so she can continue this amazing session.
Oh my
Hi,
God.
Zaina.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me. I'm such a fan of not only Brittany, but minorities in film. What they're doing in the industry is so important, is so needed, is so necessary. And a huge part of that is just facilitating conversations and bringing community together. And so just being a part of it, I'm absolutely honored. Um, we're gonna dive right in. Uh, can everybody see my screen? Everybody can see the screen? Cool, 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 cool. Okay, great. Yes, wonderful. Thank you. So to start, don't worry about taking notes. You can if you would like, but you're going to get a copy of this presentation after the workshop. So don't feel pressured to have to like write things down because you will get this in your own time. Okay. So here's what we're covering. A little bit about me. I actually hate talking about myself, but I also don't like attending workshops where the person who is leading the workshop does not establish credibility in the space or like why they are qualified to speak on this topic. So I'll give you guys a little bit of my background. Then, for those of you all who aren't familiar with the podcast, we just really want to plug the Micro Budget Indie Filmmakers podcast because that is a really big resource that continues to grow for independent filmmakers, anti-Hollywood filmmakers, and minorities in film was a huge part of that. Anti-Hollywood filmmaking principles. We're going to go through my principles that I follow and that have served me so well throughout my storytelling and filmmaking journey. I will show you guys 3 different micro budget film examples through 3 different trailers for some of the films that I've done, and then we'll have time for a Q&A. I was searching around for a notebook. No need. You're gonna get this. You also can screenshot if you like really, if you really if you really want to, but yeah, you're gonna get a copy of this afterwards. Um, okay, so a bit about me. Me being stressed out on set, me talking too much on set, a photo that I had to take. So Hollywood terrifies me. Just like I knew that Hollywood was not for me when I was in graduate school for cinema production at DePaul University. And it was my last year, and all of my cohort was sitting there talking about like, they're going to write these multi-million dollar scripts, and everybody's going to LA, and everybody's talking about pitching and getting agents and getting managers. And I'm just like, I don't want to do any of that. I want to make things, I want to make films, and that just be it. So I had to figure out a way for me to live my life where filmmaking could be more of a creative outlet instead of a career. I was more so focused on storytelling for fun rather than storytelling trying to sell things. So I carved a completely different path and it's actually been very successful. So that's what I'm sharing today, but it's rooted in the fact that like I cannot stand anything that Hollywood is. I've produced 15 micro budget indie films since 2015, and I've written and directed 10. Um, while being a filmmaker, I have always had a full-time job. So I graduated from my master's degree program in cinema production and went straight into commercial production. I worked full-time at an advertising agency as a commercial producer. So for 5 years, I produced commercials by day and films by night. I worked full-time in advertising. I produced for Nintendo, for Camel cigarettes, for Sprite, for Fanta. And then I got burned out. I got burned out really, really bad because running multi-million-dollar Nintendo shoots and then spending my free time making films on my own, I just crashed and burned. And so I did a little bit of career soul searching. I knew I wanted to keep a 9 to 5. I knew that I liked the stability of a paycheck every 2 weeks and health insurance and a 401k, and like food, shelter, basic things like that. But I wanted my day job to be something that wasn't production related. I wanted it to be something that was really rooted in story. And so I found brand strategy. So I still work in advertising at an advertising agency, but now my full-time job is a senior brand strategist. What I do is synthesize market research around a particular demographic, target audience, and I'll write briefs for creative teams who write the commercials. So now I'm at the beginning of the process instead of the end of the process. I spend my days researching. I spend my days doing stakeholder interviews with marketing executives. I spend my days doing research reports, creative briefs, and I have plenty of bandwidth now to actually focus on story. I've also retired producing altogether. I no longer produce films. I no longer produce commercials. I call myself a strategist and a storyteller. By day, I'm a strategist. And after work, in my free time, I write and direct films. So that's my journey. A little bit about my films themselves. I've never crowdfunded. All of my projects up until 2022 were self-funded by me and my savings account for going vacations and saving up and just pulling my own money together. Um, Otherwise, they were funded by an executive producer who randomly found me on Twitter or an EP who was a friend of a friend. But I've never crowdfunded before. I've also never applied for any grants. I don't really know that process. I'm not good at asking people for money. I'm just not. I'm not good at like trying to convince people to give me money to make this thing. I'm like, I'm gonna just figure out how to go make it. All of my projects are $20,000 or less. They've been distributed on Amazon Prime Video, Quelly TV, Blue TV, Sophie, Indieflix, and Tubi. Awarded in France, Nigeria, London, Toronto, India, and across the US. 2 of my documentaries, Black Feminists and Unlearning Sex, have been distributed to over 50 academic libraries, including Harvard, and they've been accepted to 3 Academy Award qualifying festivals: Real Sisters of the Diaspora, Bronze Lens, and St. Louis International Film Festival. Here's so you know that I'm not lying. This is my website. It's got all of my films, where they're streaming, the awards. It's just my name, ZanahThirus.com. I've also added my strategy work as well as a brand strategist, but that's password protected. If you want that, just email me and I'll give that to you. But because it is client and brand work, that one's password protected. But all of my films, they're live on my site. Um, a lot of filmmakers ask me about my process. They ask me like, how do you keep making films, especially those that are in LA, especially those that have left film school and like tried to break into Hollywood. And they're like, okay, you're every year at one point I was coming out with a film. And they're like, how do you keep creating consistently? Well, this is my process. So at one point I was consulting, but doing that with a full-time job and also making my projects way too much, like way too much. So I'm like, I'm going to put together a podcast that is a lecture-based format that has all of my tea. This is exactly the process for filmmaking, microbudgetfilmpodcast.com. There's 4 seasons total. The first 3 are our core seasons. There's a season for pre-production, a season for production, and a season for post-production. And each episode is a very succinct, it's very actionable. I was tired of attending, master classes or panels where they would pretty much tell filmmakers, you just gotta work hard. And it's like, that means nothing. Like, what do I actually need to do? So it's a very action-oriented based podcast, very tangible, very, we can actually start making things right away type of podcast. I launched the podcast in 2020. I was shocked at the global reach. We had 40,000 streams. We're almost at 50,000 now globally in 51 different countries. We landed in the top 10 most shared podcasts on Spotify in 2022. And so the people were hungry for more. So I'm like, okay, let's just bring back like one more season. And that's when I reached out to Minorities in Film. I reached out to Brittany and I'm like, can you co-host a bonus season for this? And I'm so grateful that Brittany said yes, because we brought back a series of episodes that really talked about topics within the industry. So we've got an episode on contracts for filmmakers, and we brought in a contract expert. We have an episode on filmmaking with a full-time job, how to balance a full-time job with filmmaking on the weekends, volunteer-based filmmaking, what to pay people when you can't pay people. We pivoted from that to talk about the WGA strike, the actor strike, and like our perspectives on it. We have an episode on micro budget cinematography as well, like with bare bones camera builds and lighting builds. And we talked to a self-taught cinematographer who's now a Canadian Screen Award winner. Her name's Ashley Ariskill. She's amazing. Catering for your micro budget film set, also filming in an Airbnb, which is like, these are the things that you should do. These are the things that you should not do. The best part about this podcast is that each season has a corresponding digital workbook with templates. Seasons 1 through 3, each has a season 1 workbook, season 2, season 3 workbook. Season 4, the bonus season, each episode has a workbook. So if we're talking filmmaking with a full-time job, there's a weekend filmmaker handbook of like, here's how you can map out your schedule, or here's a catering ideas for your micro budget, or here's contract templates. The contract episode has 3 different templates for location, for crews. Like it's pretty much like a crash course in film school, and all of the templates are digital. They're $10 to $15, and we do sales like quarterly. We're like, okay, everything's 50% off, everything's $7. Like go get it, go download it. So tell your friends. We are no longer recording any more episodes, but we do have a monthly newsletter. So that goes out every month. You can go to the website, microbudgetfilmpodcast.com, and sign up for it. Skill building exercises. So we encourage filmmakers like, okay, this month's homework assignment, we're leaning into episode 1, and we're going to talk about script breakdowns. So your assignment is to watch a scene from your favorite film and break down the elements and like tweet us. Tutorials. So I send a list of like 3 to 5 cinematography tutorials, budget tutorials, any sort of free tutorials that filmmakers can use to kind of just build their repertoire, build their resources, as well as grants. Minorities in Film is really helping us with grants, to include that in the newsletter. Like, here's what's coming up for the month. Here's some deadlines. So our goal is to make the newsletter as helpful as the episodes. I love the fact that the episodes are timeless. We don't have to keep recording them. It's like, here's the process, here's the topic, here's some workbooks, and now we have the newsletter. So again, thank you so much for putting it in the chat, Brittany. Microbudgetfilmpodcast.com. Okay, before we get into this, do we have any questions? And I'm also going to tell my mom to stop calling me because I'm in the middle of teaching class. So 1 second. My goodness, ever since my mom retired, she just thinks that all her kids are just free. Like we're not doing anything with our lives. Anyways, okay, none at the moment. Scrolling up here. Okay, cool. Let's get into the principles of anti-Hollywood filmmaking. So I'm in the process of writing a book called The Un-Hollywood Filmmaker. And I'm including a couple excerpts from the book in this because it's topically aligned. The first one. So your film is not a product. It is art. I think that the biggest difference between an anti-Hollywood filmmaker and a independent between an anti-Hollywood filmmaker and a filmmaker in Hollywood is how you view this piece of art that you're bringing into the world. In Hollywood, your film is a product. Here's an excerpt from the book. So when I say Hollywood is bullshit, I mean that it's a smoke and mirrors game. It's not a haven for artists. It's a business, a system of power structures focused on making money. And while I am not demonizing making money, I like money too. It is not the core driver of my work. In Hollywood, filmmakers are taught that art equals profit. Creators pitch their projects not for the sake of storytelling, but to sell an idea. Actors are attached to projects based on their star power, not the artistic merits of the story. And every creative decision boils down to one question: will this be profitable? Films do not get made because studios and executives don't find the film to be a viable product to sell. Whereas in anti-Hollywood filmmakers, we make films and we tell the stories that we want to make simply because we want to do that. There is no pressure for this film to be a return on investment. We are simply telling our stories because we want to tell our stories. So grounding us in that first principle, you're not making a product, you are making art. Secondly, anti-Hollywood filmmakers are the ones that have actual creative freedom. I want to raise the controversial notion that true artistry cannot coexist within a capitalist framework. The core of capitalism is profit motivated, meaning the primary goal is to generate a profit for business owners and shareholders. True art is about freedom of expression, and real freedom cannot exist within this framework. The thing again about a film existing as a product in Hollywood, if they don't find a certain scene, a certain creative choice, a certain actor, whatever, sellable, if they don't feel like audiences will buy into it, the director or the creator of the film is not able to move forward with that creative choice because it's not financially viable, right? That's not freedom. You don't have creative freedom just because you have a multi-million-dollar budget. You're at the mercy of the whims of the audience, and also at the mercy of the people that are funding your film for the sake of that return on investment. You don't have creative control. So the beautiful thing about anti-Hollywood filmmakers, yeah, we're working with these micro budgets and we're wearing 7 different hats and we're putting our own money into things. But at the end of the day, we actually have autonomy over the things that we create. So that in and of itself, I feel like is power. And it's power that filmmakers in Hollywood do not have. Anti-Hollywood filmmakers defined success differently. Now, this is a sticky one, but bear with me. But here's the harsh reality. In Hollywood, success is not about integrity of your vision. It's about your ability to make corporate entities richer. Take a moment to consider this. When a movie is celebrated for the highest grossing film of the year, does that actually tell us anything about the artistic vision behind it? How much of what we see on screen, the shots, the edits, the scenes, actually came from the filmmaker's true creative intent? And how much was shaped by studio executives, marketing metrics, and the relentless pursuit of audience approval? Yeah, your film could make millions, but are you happy with it? Was that your decision that was made, or was that the studio executives? Is the final product something that you actually are proud to see out in the world because it's yours? Or were you simply just a cog in the machine? So I think, again, anti-Hollywood filmmakers are successful. You might only have a few $1,000s to make a film, but at the end of the day, the finished product is 1000% your vision. And because you had full creative control, that is successful. In Hollywood, success is based on star power, it's based on money, it's based on other people's approval. It has nothing to do with the artistic integrity. And so I think as a whole, anti-Hollywood filmmaking is really about defining what success is for you. And so much of that is in the true creative freedom. Anti-Hollywood filmmakers have regular jobs. Oh my God, this is a big one. And this is one that I want us to all get really comfortable with, okay? The day job exists for a very specific purpose: to make life as an artist easier. You can have any job and still be an anti-Hollywood filmmaker. You can be a bartender, a nanny, a college professor, a marketing executive, a food truck owner, a math tutor, a chef, a nail technician, an electrician, a nonprofit program manager, or a fitness trainer. The possibilities are endless because the criteria for your career isn't tied to accolades or Hollywood's ever-shifting goalposts. The real measure is simple: choose a job that puts money in your pocket consistently and gives you the bandwidth to focus on your artistry. That's it. I love my job as a brand strategist. It's fully remote, okay? Wonderful PTO policy. It's an unlimited PTO policy. Whenever I want to take time off work to go make some shit, I'm gonna do that. Like, my bills are on auto pay. This is great. Everything's wonderful. If I was in Hollywood, I would be so stressed out right now, trying to get into a writer's room, trying to get on this show, trying to get this script sold, right? Like, the stress of sustaining myself day to day does not exist because I have a job. There is no shame in having a job, and that job doesn't define you. I still tell people I'm a storyteller. Like, that is what I do. The work that is forward on my socials, on my website, on any of that. Like, a lot of people are shocked that I have a full-time job because, like, it's just that thing in the background that makes sure that I can eat. Like, that's at the end of the day, that's what it is. Okay, any questions on the anti-Hollywood principles before we get into the actual filmmaking process? Looking in the chat. Okay, moving right along. Let's get into the filmmaking process. Number one, the rule that I will say this until I am blue in the face. These might even be my last words. Like, write scripts according to the resources you have available to you. I talk to a lot of filmmakers who are depressed and really discouraged because they cannot get their script sold. They have had failed crowdfunding campaigns. They are getting rejected from grants and they cannot get their film made. And within the first scene of their film, I'll read a script and I'm like, why is there a helicopter and a car chase and 700 people in a ballroom scene? Like, this film requires $2 million of VFX work alone. What are you doing? You don't have this. you don't have any of these things. Write scripts according to the resources you have available to you. I always give filmmakers this prompt to start with. What is the most incredible thing you can write in one room with two characters? One of the most incredible films that I saw, it was a feature film. God, I'm forgetting the name of it, but it headlined in 2023 at the Jacksonville Film Festival in Florida. I was flown out to host a micro budget filmmaking class and also premiere one of my shorts, but I went there a day early to see their features. And it was a feature film about two people in a hotel room. And they were college hookup buddies. And they found each other like 15 years later at a business conference in Vegas. And they decided to hook up again. But this time they got to the room and the woman was like, hey, like, can you just impregnate me? Because I've been trying to like go to the sperm bank, but I'd rather you be I'd rather the dad be someone I know. And it was a conversation about, it was supposed to be a hookup, but then it was a whole conversation about like, you want to have a kid? And it was, the audience was like, like the whole conversation, like we were on the edge of our seats. Everybody laughed at the same time. Everybody gasped at the same time. Everybody was like, what the fuck, at the same time. And it was just two people in a hotel room. And the craziest part was that the entire crew, it was a small crew, two people, they snuck and made the film. They didn't even tell the hotel that they were making a film out of this. It was beautifully shot. It was riveting. And they did it for like pennies to the dollar. It was fascinating. They didn't have explosives. They didn't have celebrities. They had juicy dialogue, a great plot, two people in a room. So like, write scripts according to the resources you have available to you. That's how you end up getting your films made because they're easier to make. Questions in the chat. I'm going to scroll up. Not last words. Yeah, my last words. Can this be applied to documentaries regarding the topics you're aiming to talk about? Absolutely. I'm going to read Brittany's comment. Yes, of course. If you have access to the subjects you're covering, the locations and cities, prioritize that story 1000%. My very first documentary I did was on my family because me and my siblings were all homeschooled until we went to college. And we all started college when we were 14 years old. And so it was called Ready, Set, Adult. It was about being thrown into the whims of adulthood after being homeschooled until we went to college at an early age. And all of the footage was in my house. And it was just my family, but it was a unique story. So I didn't, the only thing I had to get was equipment. And I mean, like, this was probably bad, but I was like, I don't have to feed y'all. Like, these are my siblings and my parents. Like, come to the living room. We'll sort this. So yeah, like definitely start with the resources you have, and that could be applied to any genre. Disclaimer, we are not advising you to sneak into hotels. Don't do that. Do not do that. Get the permits, tell the people, all the things. Yeah, don't. We are that highly not advise that at all. Zoom calls are good for docs and unscripted reality too. Absolutely. There was a documentary that I produced my first year of grad school. One of my classmates found out that he was adopted. He was from Taiwan. He found out he was adopted when he was 25 years old. His parents told him. And so we filmed the conversation when he asked his mom for the first time, "Why did you hide this from me?" And it was only 4 minutes. And it was a phone call, but it was like, it was such a vulnerable, really heartstring pulling conversation. And it was just him on the phone with his mom. Say again, Zoom calls, phone calls, one room. There's so many incredible things that you can do with limited resources. Okay, next point. Collaborating with filmmakers is not exploiting them. I know this is a hard pill to swallow, because people are always like, I deserve to be paid for my time. You do. You absolutely do. But here's the thing. Corporate entities with millions of dollars are not the same thing as micro budget indie filmmakers who are like, I saved up $500 and I'm filming something in a basement. Want to help? That's not exploiting you, right? We're going to get to non-monetary compensation because people should be compensated in some way, even if it's not monetary, for the effort and the time that they put in. But I know a lot of filmmakers whose films are not made because they're like, I can't afford to pay a crew. You might not ever be able to afford people their rates. You might not ever get to the point where you can shell out $20,000 for crew rates. You might not ever have that. That doesn't mean that you don't deserve to make a film. And I also relate this to crowdfunding. If you can ask strangers for money, crowdfunding is like the digital version of walking up to a stranger on the street and being like, can you give me $10 to go like make this film? If you can do that, you can ask people to collaborate with you on a project. It's not unethical. Just like I said, if you can ask strangers for money to crowdfund, you can ask indie filmmakers to collaborate with you. Now we're going to get into what can you offer filmmakers, because I hate the word exposure. This is going to be great exposure. No, it's not. It's a micro budget independent film. Like, and also, what does exposure even mean? Exposed to what? To who? Why? So try something more valuable. These are the things that I love to offer as incentives for my productions when I can't afford to pay people. A level up from an existing role. I've worked with assistant camera operators who were never trusted in a DP role. And I'm like, well, you craft the shot list, you call the shots, you are the director of the photography on the film. And the way their eyes light up, like, I can do whatever I want. Yeah, whatever. Sure. Like, do the shot list, do the thing. Literally whatever you want, you get full creative control and you get that title. An opportunity for first-time filmmakers. One of my favorite art directors that I've ever worked with, she worked in advertising as an art director, as a designer, but she's always wanted to set dress. And I was premiering one of my films, and she came up to me afterwards and was like, I would love the opportunity to like set dress for you. And I'm like, sure. Like, here is the Amazon dollar store prop list. Have a ball. Like, absolutely. And she's worked on 3 different films of mine. Oh, she's incredible. Absolutely incredible. But she was having like, it was the courage to be able to come up to me and be like, I want to do this. And then me saying, not being like, well, what's your experience? I don't care. Like, we could figure this out together. And I believe in your ability to also contribute to the project in a meaningful way, even if that's not something you've done before. A full list of film festivals that we will submit the film to. So this shows intention. This shows that we're not just making a film to put on YouTube, although that is fine. But for me, I like to include in the budget, like, hey, I've set aside a few $100s for film festival submission fees, and these are the festivals that we're targeting. I like having, like, these are the big ones, like the Oscar qualifying film festivals, which there's going to be thousands of submissions, but it's on theme for our film, so we'll try it. some mid-tier festivals, and then some like really small, really scrappy, sometimes like first-time film festivals. The mid and smaller film festivals can really champion the work of micro-budget indie filmmakers. They do really incredible programming, especially if you have a high quality film. A lot of times they're not getting those types of submissions. So if you have a really riveting story that is shot really well, you'd be surprised how many film festivals eat that up. So a list of film festivals, the film budget, for transparency, everybody sees the budget. So if we can't pay people, I want you to know, if we have $3,000 to make this film, hey, the budget is going to feeding everybody, insurance, hard drives, film festival submission fees, and our location, and a supplemental gear. That's where it's going. And then the production schedule. Ahead of time, people know this is the date where the edit is supposed to be locked, and this is when you will have footage for your reel. So you will have IMDb credit, footage for your reel, and a film festival submission list as well. So very detailed. I like to put this all together in a production packet when people are interested in the project, like, here's what I can offer you. Because again, exposure is very vague. Also, bartering. One of my favorite things to do is like, okay, I'll produce your film if you direct mine. I'll shoot your film if you edit mine. I have put together film marketing strategies for so many filmmakers that have collaborated on my sets, because I work full time as a marketing strategist. So I will put together their entire like audience profile and how you market the film, and like here's a list of film festivals, here's some targeted streaming sites. Like, I will do an entire presentation around how they market their film to the world. I love doing that. And it's just another thing that they don't have to figure out. So if you have a skill and you're looking to collaborate with people, like, share resources. Oh, the chat. Time check, half hours mark. Okay. Let me stop rambling. Totally agree. Yes, bartering is an alternative. Is it enough to know the stories I want to produce and have the means to fund production? Do you connect creators with crews? Do you have a referral pipeline for production partners? I'll cue this up in our Q&A. Thank you. I was just going to say, we could start with that in the Q&A portion. The cheapest films to make: silent films, narrated films, horror films. Most of my films when I was first starting out, no dialogue, all narration, and it was me under a blanket recording on my iPhone in the voice notes. Narrated films are great because you can get on set and just shoot and direct and not have to worry about sound. Those are really easy to shoot. You have a lot of room to play. And again, like, audio can be really expensive. Good audio can be expensive. So just eliminate that. Silent films as well. I think silent films need to make a comeback. Like, we don't see enough silent films anymore. Narration is great, but like, bring back the silent films. Bring back the black and white silent films. We need to see more of those, right? And then horror films. I say this all the time. It doesn't take much to scare people. You can do some scary shit for very little money. If you look at like Paranormal Activity, or like what it would be like to be locked in a basement or stuck in a house, or like, there's just so much that you can do that's frightening that doesn't have to cost a bunch of money. My first little film is horror. Yeah, exactly. So if you're thinking about genres like silent films, narrated films, horror films, start there. Gear is expensive. I always work with DPs that own their own gear. Always. I don't think I've ever rented a camera. Now that I think about it, for my entire portfolio, I've rented like lens kits or like lights or like supplemental things, but never a camera. So if you're collaborating on a project and you want to work with a cinematographer or a DP, always go for people that have their own gear and can bring it. Sharegrid.com is like Airbnb for equipment. I've used Sharegrid a few times, where people who own equipment, they like rent it out and they lease it out. And they do weekend packages, which is also like really, really great if you want something a little bit more on the high end, like an Arri Alexa. There's people that just have like older models, Canon C100, Canon C300s, and they're just like a couple $100. They're there. So definitely use that as a resource. And it's okay. We talked about this a little bit earlier, but I just want to reiterate that it's okay if success as a filmmaker looks different for you than other people. Sometimes micro-budget, independent, anti-Hollywood filmmakers will gaslight themselves into thinking that they are not successful. And you really, really, really have to define what that is for yourself. So for me, I love having a full-time job and being a filmmaker. I love the fact that I don't have to worry about my next paycheck and I can just make things when I want to make things. I like low budget, small crew productions. I love the fact that we pulled off a feature film January of last year. We shot it in 8 days, 2 locations with a crew of 10. I love the fact that I did an entire documentary that's been distributed all over the world, and it was a crew of 3 people. Like, I've been on the commercial production sets where there's 60, 70 people for a 30-second commercial, and I'm like, I don't like this. I don't actually enjoy this. So I like success for me is being able to create in a way that I actually enjoy. And I like when filmmaking is simple. I just do. I don't like the stress, a lot of the stress that comes along with art in general. So for me, success looks like being able to create how I want to, when I want to, without that like pressure. That's success for me. So you got to define that for yourself. If you get stuck on what to write, start with you. Like I said, my first doc was on my family. Everybody has some like interesting shit going on. You might not think it's interesting, but talk to your family, that one aunt that has that crazy story, or you might have had a ridiculous breakup that led into some other things. Start with yourself. Start with you and your life or your family or your friends. If you ever are trying to drum up a story, just start with you. What's the funniest situation you encountered? What's a secret you've been dying to share? What's the most awkward situation you've ever been in? A lot of times you don't have to make stuff up. It's like our life is material. Okay, I'm gonna get into a couple of trailers. In the interest of time, I'm going to go through these slides pretty quickly. I'm just going to show the trailer for my feature because that's the most recent one. You guys can watch the other trailers in your own time because you're going to get a copy of this. Any questions before we look at the trailer? Not
Nope.
seeing.
Mm-mm.
Nope. Okay. So a couple of examples. The Love You One Exist. This was a $5,600 budget. It was spent on location, gear, catering, film festivals, props, wardrobe, and COVID safety. We filmed in an Airbnb for 3 days, 2 indoor days in the house, and then 1 in the backyard. It's streaming on Quelly TV. It won the Audience Choice Award at the Seattle Black Film Festival. It won, the lead actress won Best Actress at Diversity in Cannes, and then it was accepted into Bronze Lens, which is Oscar qualifying. And this is about a Black couple planning a patriarchy-free commitment ceremony, and it's a comedy centered around like very sexist wedding traditions and them wanting to do things their own way. So you guys can watch that on your own time. The next one is New Santa. This was filmed in one room, in a living room in an Airbnb. It was shot in 2 days. The budget was location, gear, catering, film festival submissions, props, and wardrobe. I worked with the same team. It was so funny because for this one, I did want to give like stipends, but my team was like, okay, like instead of you paying us pennies pretty much, can we just get the gear we want? Like, can we actually like do some really cool, like, can we up this budget instead? I'm like, sure. So my camera team, my design team, they got to do whatever they wanted with the budget that they had. And the catering was amazing. And we actually got like really great wardrobe styling. It was fantastic. It's streaming on Tubi. It won Best Comedy at the International Black and Diversity Film Festival. Bronze Lens also screened it, and then DC Black Film Festival. This is about the North Pole doing a diversity, equity, and inclusion overhaul and firing Santa and hiring a Black woman named Shaniqua to his position. And she restructured the North Pole gift-giving system to be more equitable. It's about a socialist Santa Claus. And then lastly, this is a feature film, my biggest budget to date. It was a $20,000 budget. 2 locations, 2 days of rehearsals, 6 days of shooting. We actually staffed the entire production of with film students. So me and my producer, we were both graduates of the same film program. We went back to the film program and found students that wanted to work on the set. So they got a stipend from the budget, and then they also got a feature in their portfolio before they graduated. And my producer owned all the gear. So I'm gonna actually share this trailer with you guys. Let me know if you could see my screen. I'm gonna turn on the captions. Make it bigger. Okay, you can see the screen, everybody? Okay. Ah, why did you do that?
You are invited to observe the North American husband of the heterosexual cisgendered variety. Overcome with dissatisfaction, their wives have lured them to a sexual education boot camp in order to have a very long overdue conversation.
I wanted to be a high school sex ed teacher until I came across this fact that's called the orgasm gap. Quite frankly, it pissed me off. So I decided to conduct a, I guess you can call it a social experiment.
During partnered sex, heterosexual women experience the lowest frequency of orgasm. The effing lowest.
This workshop is centered around pleasure, okay? By a show of hands, here has sex and orgasm. We all know why we're here.
My wife told me we were going to a couple's church retreat.
There's only one little complaint that I have, and that's sort of why I'm here.
I'm going to that. Zanah, you can come if you want.
I've been trying to call for the last 7 months.
So this is the air.
Ah, why did you pause?
You are
We all know why we're here.
My wife told me we were going to a couple's church retreat.
There's only one little complaint that I have, and that's sort of why I'm here.
I'm going to that. Zanah, you can come if you want.
I've been trying to call for the last 7 months.
So it keeps cutting off for some reason. I'll send you guys the full trailer so you have it. But it's called the OG Boot Camp, and it is about a sexologist conducting a social experiment where she gets 4 wives to ambush their husbands into a all-day sex education boot camp. And again, like the team working on this, you wouldn't think that students film this. And this is why I'm such a big supporter of giving filmmakers like their first time opportunities, because you would be surprised at how capable people are. The last thing I'll share, these are the budgets less than $1,000, Mima, $850, and then Hourglass, $100. And those are the full films. So don't forget to connect with us. There's a WhatsApp channel in here for micro budget filmmakers, and then also the Facebook group for minorities in film. Don't forget to follow Micro Budget Film Podcast and sign up for the newsletter for all the resources. And now we've got a little bit of time for questions.
Yes, I will put the Facebook group in the chats as well as the WhatsApp group. I want to resurface back to one of the questions that we had earlier. It was from Bantu Book Review.
Yeah. Okay, wait, let me scroll up. This is it enough to know the stories I want to produce and have the means to fund productions? Is it enough? What do you mean? Can you explain that question a little bit more?
And feel free to come off mute. This is our open session.
Yeah.
Yes. So I have an idea of the stories that I'd like to produce, but I don't have the means to produce them. So I would need a crew and like a director, like all those things associated with crafting the story and telling the story, I would need help with. But I have the funds and I have the creative idea, I guess.
Mm-hmm. So you're asking like, where do you find these teams?
Yeah, where do I find those teams? And do you provide a resource where you have a pipeline or like a means to refer folks that I can work with that you have had success with your own productions?
So the WhatsApp channel is one of the things like that we created so filmmakers can put their crew calls in there. That was the point for us to create something. Like I said, our podcast has over 40,000 streams, and the Twitter page is now at almost 11,500 followers. There's a lot of filmmakers there, and a lot of filmmakers also tweet us with like, hey, we're casting or we're crewing up for this. These are the roles available. And filmmakers have worked with each other that way. So I would definitely say tap into the WhatsApp channel, follow us on Twitter, and then when you have your crew calls, like make that post so we can reshare it. I'm a big fan of watching independent films on like Quelly, Glued, YouTube, and then going to the credits and finding those filmmakers on social and connecting with them there. Some of my favorite filmmakers I've worked with, I found on Twitter. So I would say start with like mapping out your crew roles, what you have available, what you can offer them, that production packet. Episode 3 of our bonus season is volunteer-based filmmaking, and it gives you the guide for like, this is how you put together a production packet to pitch to your peers. So put that together and then start your outreach, the WhatsApp channel, the Twitter page, looking at independent films and going to see their credits, attending film festivals. Guys, we gotta attend film festivals. That's a bunch of filmmakers in a room at the same time. Like I've met so many of my cinematographers I've collaborated with because we've been in the same film screening. I've seen their film, they've seen my film, and we're like, we need to work together. So those would be my like big ways to like connect with filmmakers.
Thank you. That's really helpful because I'm a bit of a novice. So even knowing what the role is called is difficult because I don't know who does what. I just know what I want the story to be ultimately. But I'm gonna do my homework. And like
Start
you
with
said,
the podcast.
yeah,
Start with the
absolutely.
podcast from the beginning, because
Yeah.
we have an episode on your production crew, and the
Mhm.
workbook maps out all of the roles and what the roles are. So like if you stream the episodes in order, like that's supposed to help filmmakers understand the entire production process from start to finish. So I would start with the podcast and then work on the production packet and then start the outreach.
This is very helpful. Thank you.
No
Sure.
problem. I want to go in order of the hands raised. I also know that, Gabrielle, we kind of answered your question about ways to find an editor even if we can't pay their rates. Definitely use the links that I dropped below. Also follow us on Instagram, Minorities in Film, and Micro Budget Film Pod on Twitter. The thing about Minorities in Film is we have a collective. It started off internally, so we have editors, DPs, directors, you name it. But also we wanted to create a space where people who are entry level and getting used to working with people to join the Facebook group. So if you're in the Facebook group, we listen and we don't judge. If you do not know the roles and everything, just ask for what you need. Yes, and you can just join the Global Collective now on Facebook with the link above. We do have a paid subscription, and those are kind of in an internal group. We'll share with you how you can do that this year because we do want to allow access for you guys, even if you can't afford the fee. So Minorities in Film Facebook is open, and the WhatsApp for Micro Budget Film Pod Fam is open and it's free, and it's a WhatsApp group just for micro budget film makers. So we don't get confused and you don't feel like you're intimidated by speaking to editors who have like this $1,000 a day rate. Don't worry about that.
Exactly. I would also add,
yeah, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna go to Christina, but go ahead.
I would say the first thing that I did when I was when I decided that I wanted to make films is learn how to edit. My first few films, Mima, Hourglass, I edited myself. Demons, I edited myself. I learned how to edit from YouTube tutorials, Adobe Premiere Pro, and I put myself through editing school. I pretty much like every Saturday for like 6 to 12 weeks, I was just at a cafe watching tutorials and just practicing. The beautiful thing about micro budget indie filmmaking, if you are working on simple scripts that are easy to execute, you're not working with like CGI and VFX and like if you're editing a film that is simply just 2 people in a room, you could figure that out. So if push comes to shove and you can't find an editor, which a lot of times you will be able to if you have a very clear post-production schedule, shameless plug, season 3's workbook details a post-production schedule. A lot of editors have collaborated with me because I was organized in post-production. I'm like, this is when we need the assembly cut. This is when I will have notes. This is when we need the rough cut. This is when I will have notes. This is picture lock. This is color grading, and this is audio and mixing. the episodes for season 3 will detail that along with the workbook. So be buttoned up when you reach out. But again, if push comes to shove, I encourage all independent filmmakers, teaching yourself how to edit the basics, that could come in handy.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Moving to Christina. I feel like Christina had.
Hi guys. Thank you for having us. I've been following you guys, I don't know, since maybe la last year with the podcast, and I brought a couple of your workbooks. I am thinking of I have a script and I have two scripts. I have one that's going to be more of my I'm gonna let other people do what they do best and let them do it so I could learn because I've never been on set before. But this other script I'm thinking of actually directing, and I was wondering, it's a kind of like a horror type of thing, so it'll be more likely with zombies. And I was wondering if I condense this in a way to make it more micro budget friendly, do people when they have like I guess you call them background actors play extras? Are they compensated based off of SAG, or are they usually compensated for other type of things like, credits or food or any type of other non-monetary things?
It completely depends on your production. If you're a SAG production, then you have to go according to SAG rules. Full
Okay.
stop. If you are a non-union production, you can do whatever that you want. And I prefer non-union productions. My only production I ever did that was SAG was my feature. And will I ever do that again? Fuck no. But hey.
Oh, there's a lot of work, paperwork and stuff like that?
No, I just SAG actors are a little too Hollywood for me. They're just a little too, just a little too Hollywood for me. I'm like,
Oh.
guys, I'm trying to choose my words very wisely right now, but
I mean, you don't have to. This is literally anti-Hollywood. Like,
yeah, like,
y'all thought we were gonna be like PG with this. Like, Zeta's very anti-Hollywood.
I'm
Continue.
there. Thank you for the reminder of where we're at in the audience, because I just, yeah, it's too Hollywood adjacent for me.
Okay.
The mindset around it a lot of times for me with dealing with SAG actors was like, this is just a stepping stone for me to get to the next big thing, as opposed to, I really love this script and I can't wait to tell the story. And so I gravitate towards those types of actors. And also there's a lot of gatekeeping in SAG. It's a union, it's supposed to
Uh,
be people, which is
yeah.
great. But there's a lot of people that don't have access to it that are wonderful actors. So I prefer non-union. Personally.
I'll keep that in mind for other script because I'm looking at the budget now and I'm like, maybe I could condense this a little bit more.
Yeah, for sure. Especially with like extras, like people for real footage, a meal. I love having a BTS photographer on set so people actually get photos of them like in action, high res photos. There's a lot. IMDb credit, high res photos, footage for their reel, a meal, film festival submission list. Like there's other things you can compensate people with, especially if it's extras for a micro budget film.
Thank you.
All right, next up we have Miguel. Also, I know it's 7:29, but if you guys are available to stay on a little bit later to get your questions answered, please do. And if you have to hop, just send me a message. We will send you this recording and all the resources. Miguel, hi.
Hey, what's going on? I just want to say, man, it's so good to hear another filmmaker out there kind of like really pushing on the micro budgets, and it makes me feel a little less crazy to ask people to like come together to shoot for my 30th. Like it's just things like that. I'm actually coming to the end of my festival circuit with a short, 7 minutes, no dialogue, and I was wondering, how was that process of getting your stuff onto platforms? Like, because I've been approached slightly, but I've never been in that world and I have no idea what to say, what to ask, or what to look for.
Yeah, well, we have an episode for that. Our distribution episode of the podcast and workbook details a distribution checklist. So the things that you want to have available, like your closed captioning, your poster, your synopsis, like there's a list of things that I wish I knew ahead of time, because once they're like, oh yeah, we want your film, then I was scrambling. So that list is put together. I would definitely first, and the workbook details this, but just at a high level, like I would look into whether or not you want your film to be exclusively licensed or non-exclusively. If
Yeah.
you want a platform to have it exclusively, then that profit split should be substantial. But also like what's coming along with it. For example, my documentaries, They're With Women Make Movies. They take 60% of the revenue, and the other 40% is a split between me and the crew. Like we get semi-annual payouts, but they do all of the marketing, they do all of the promotion, they do all of the poster design, I don't do anything. I just pretty much gave them the file, the closed captioning and the things that they required, and they licensed it to all the schools. They handled everything. So you should consider what type of agreement you're comfortable with. The streaming platform in and of itself, like, is this a major platform? I think Tubi is great because it's free. And when Tubi is free, like I don't make any money off of Tubi, but I can tell people, hey, this is on Tubi, and they can go watch it without having to sign up for anything or without having to get a subscription. It's just available. It's there. It's platformed.
Yeah.
Quelly TV is another really good one. It's like the Black Netflix. They champion work of award-winning Black independent films. So if you've been, I think they also do festival selected and awarded. So they have a submission thing on their website, and they're really good with quarterly royalties as well. It's like a very open profit split. So they show like, this is how many streams you had. This is what the percentage is. It's very fair. It's very honest. So yeah, just figuring out like, okay, where do I want my film to end up? What are the terms that I'm comfortable with? And then as far as like that checklist, every site is different. They'll let you know, but I would also just tap into the episode about like distribution.
I definitely will. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Next, we have Louis. Am I pronouncing that right?
Yeah, it's Louis. Can you hear me? Just double checking. Awesome. I really do appreciate the presentation. I actually seen your podcast, I don't know how many years in. I think it was like in 2020 is when it started, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Because like I'm saying, time flies. So I guess for me, the question really is just the mindset change, because I do have ideas of like, yeah, it'd be cool to do like so many other projects, or even a biopic of my own grandfather, or biopic, tomato, tomato. Some people say it differently, but and my concern simply is like, oh yeah, what's the cost? Location, it's my dad's town. This is where they're doing things. And like, even researching over there, and like technically on my free time, or with my father, when we travel, it's just like thinking like, okay, what is the tangible, like how is this possible? Or even sometimes is it just out of the realm of micro budget filmmaking? I guess my concern is just, yes, you think big, but I have to think practical. So like, I guess how what's the right mindset when there's big ambitions versus one location, two people? Is it like taking the humble pie?
The thing that I always go back to is like, do you want to get the film made or not? I know that sounds like harsh, but like at the end of the day, micro budget filmmaking is not about thinking small. It's about what you can actually do, because you can have all of these big ideas in your head, and you can have all of these really big ideas on paper, but if you don't have the resources to actually execute them, they are just an idea. So if you actually want to see something out in the world, how can you do that? And you do that by focusing on what you have immediately available to you. What do you have access to? So I don't even look at it as like pigeonholing myself, because it's like the alternative is it not getting made. That's the only way that I think about it. Like my feature could have been done so many different ways, but the way that we could afford to do it was students, 2 locations, and the SAG micro budget agreement. That's how the film could get done. And that's how it got made. So I just look at it through the lens of possibility instead of through the lens of limitations.
Yeah, I appreciate it, because I mean, technically I'm back in school to do filmmaking, and luckily, when you guys recommended, it's like, yeah, I mean, to be honest, we're students. So it's like more or less we just all are trying to get accredited of like, hey, can we do this? Is this possible? Like,
Yeah.
bluntly, it's all micro budget based.
Yeah.
I got a virtual production project coming up on the 15th and 16th,
Yeah.
and we're using the students like, their green room. They have
Mhm.
like fancier tools, and go figure that's like the cheapest thing because we're students, so we can get
Yeah.
it. We can work there.
Yeah.
I guess my only two other, like, I guess 50 what was the word? My 2 cents in there is like, definitely go if you could go back to school and they have nice cameras, because my location, they have like Canon C70s, and I
Yeah.
was able to use them, no
Oh, yeah.
issues. Fancy primary lenses.
Yep.
I would show it, but I don't know if it's a bad thing. Like, oh yeah, here's my work. I don't know if I could post it on the link or not, but
Why not? Yeah,
oh,
absolutely. Absolutely. And
it'd be fun.
I would echo that. If you're a film student,
Um,
utilize all of the resources that your film program has. That is what you are paying for. Like,
let's
collaborate
see.
with each other, use the film cages. We had an edit studio, we had an audio studio, equipment studio. Like, yes, use
Here,
all of the things. Milk
I guess
it.
here's my Twitter. I got like little screenshots of like, this is my first time ever holding a camera and a C70, so it's like on the Twitter link. So like, I like the
Okay.
little pictures. I was like, I like this.
Yeah, yeah.
Never held a camera, never did this stuff. I'm like, this is my iPhone right now. It just connects to my computer. That's it.
Yeah.
Like,
No,
no,
thanks for sharing.
there's a way.
There is absolutely a way. Always. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, thanks.
Next, we have Alexandra and then Mario.
I was talking and my mic was muted, sorry.
No worries.
Well, it's such an honor to meet you, Zanah. I've been following you, I don't know for how long, because I've been listening to your podcast for a long time. I think ever since I landed on your Twitter user and the micro budget one, I was like, oh my gosh, this girl speaks my language in a way, because I think I started like reading Alex Ferrari, and he's a micro budget filmmaker as well.
Okay.
But he ain't anti-Hollywood, which is quite an irony. But I mean, you can learn from both, and it's such a good mix and everything.
Oh,
And
thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here.
And I love what you do. I mean, I have lots of friends that live in the LA area. Well, one of my best friends, she's a micro budget filmmaker as well. Ana Lidia Monaco. I don't know if you've heard of her. She's a Mexican American living in LA. She's so cool, and I've learned so much from her as well. And I mean, what you guys have in the States is something that I really want to bring over to Honduras, because the filmmaking community, I mean, sometimes it's a little too, I don't know what the right word might be. I mean, to be politically correct, they're too, I think it's too selfish, because they're not that open in sharing their experiences, like you are, for example, how Alex Ferrari is, and all the filmmakers, at least in the Twitter universe, right? How we are there. And I would love, like, for that to, I mean, or to bring at least that sense of community as it should be, right? So that everyone can actually make their films.
Yes.
Because I mean, I feel that like sometimes as a community, we like put on the barriers for the rest, or in this case, the opportunities for the rest. I mean, it can go either way, right? And it's something that, I mean, I've been in so many webinars, so many like conversations like this one, and I've met so many like really cool people, and I've done the networking and everything, and that's how we actually landed with my husband, our animation mentor, which is a former Disney editor for Tarzan, and he actually taught us so much for one of the films that we made, one of the animation films that we have. And I mean, and I'm right now same as Miguel. I was actually gonna put on the chat. I'm right. I have the same question as him because my film actually finished the festival circuit, and I was like, okay, what's the next step with this one? And we want to do so many projects that actually are born from that project because we introduced a lot of characters, and we want to use them on another projects.
Sure.
So it's like
Your question is around it's around distribution.
It's sort of like distribution and how do I pitch my next projects, considering that that they're coming, like that they were introduced through this short film.
Pitch to who?
Like, for example, like we're looking to get grants or crowdfund, because do crowdfunding. So that we can actually get into production, because it's an animated film in this case. So we actually need the money to actually really get into production, because animation's not cheap, and it takes time. So it's like, how can I handle the micro budget? Because I love the micro budget mindset when doing animation.
Yeah, I
think
can hop in here unless Zanah. Sorry.
I was gonna volleyball it. I was gonna say I volleyball it over to Brittany. I actually, anything that's not micro budget, anything that's pitching, anything that's crowdfunding, I have no idea. That's just not my.
I think that it's like such an amazing thing, especially with animation, right? Because you have to really, there's a small margin for error. You have to really sell your team, and you have to sell the world. And then, we talked about anti-Hollywood, it is a product, but in animation, it's like you're building a style in this new world. And, so I would say that even if you're raising money for this, you mentioned brands on that side. I'm a branded storyteller, and a lot of our communities lean heavily on commercialization so that they can use the money from that to fund their films. So with animation, one thing that works really well is just doing a boardomatic, which is like the stripped down sketches of your film. If you have some amazing people attached to it, sounds like. So I'm sure that they'll be able to whip up a scene and just do the little frames and the layers of like the most enticing scene and use that to go to brands. But you have to have that alignment with your story and their overall goals. So if you're approaching brands, you do have to go into a little bit like sales pitch. What are their mission? Who's their target audience? Am I speaking to their target audience? Am I part of their target audience with this story? And then craft that story to connect the dots to them so that you're basically saying, I have a marketing asset for you within this film. And you do need something to showcase with that. And with other filmmakers here, they'll have the script, they'll have the mood boards and stuff. With the animation, you have to showcase your style, and a boardomatic it's called. So that's one. And then for crowdfunding, boardomatics work really good for crowdfunding. You don't have to have the full sketch and the build and everything, but they do like to see a little bit of animation. And also the team. This is one of the spaces where you have to really have a great team.
Thank you.
Yes. And then also Christina says like crowdfunding on Kickstarter, Indiegogo is probably a better option to raise money. I will say that's cool. That's true. Kickstarter though, you have to meet 100% of your goal in order to, or is it 80%? I don't know if they lowered it, but you have to reach majority of your goal in order to get all of your donations. And so that's a high risk, high reward. But if you're willing to put in the marketing spend for that, because it is a lot of time to market, I would say test both of those out.
Yeah, or there was another one that I remember that I saw that it was film specific, but I don't remember. Seed and Spark.
Seed and Spark is great. We also have a partnership with them. So they do
Really?
have
Oh, cool.
resources. Yes, they do have resources. They also are kind of like not as anti-Hollywood as Zanah, but they're like women-led, and they will give you as many resources as possible to help your campaign thrive.
Oh, cool.
And they also
Thank you.
have funders within the platform that might want to match a donation. So it's really, Seed and Spark is really good resource to have as well.
Oh, hey, thank you. I'll consider it for the next project. Says like they're all like the stories are attached to the one that you already released. So it's we're trying to create our own Pixar universe in a way.
No, that makes complete sense. You know, I'm an anime nerd. I'm always on webtoons every day, so I completely get it. Um, I want to honor everybody's time, so I want to go to Mario, and then that's probably going to be our last question. While we're at that question, remind yourselves to join our Facebook, join our WhatsApp, connect with each other because this chat is probably going to go away on these channels and these platforms. Chat there. You'll have access to us and everybody. Go ahead, Mario.
Thank you guys for your time. I kind of got in here a little bit late. I was practicing for an audition for a play for a Black Broadway piece. I want to figure out how to best ask this question because it's multi-layered, but I'll explain what I'm intending to do. And then I want to see how is the best way I could approach this because this is something that hasn't really been done before, and there's not too much examples of even touching the genre as well as other things. I'm working on a feature. I'm going to shoot it as a short first to get promotion on the idea and build it and do some level of a GoFundMe and other things, mostly for awareness and some level of accruing money. I'm a very adamant student of the low budget to no budget film wave of the late 80s, early 90s. I'm trying to make this movie for 100K less or less if it can be done down in there. This film, it's a romantic social drama. It's about the day in the life of a homeless couple in LA. It's a Black American love story about the struggles and triumphs to chase your dreams in America that I want to work to create as a social activism project to help not only bring awareness to the cause, but also to help raise money for the houseless community to create systems to get people out of homelessness. And I want to collab with as many people as possible in this regard, is from aspect of Black people wearing their clothing and brands, because, they don't, people, unless you're paying for that, or that doesn't exactly happen. People on the soundtrack, blues, soul, hip hop, all of the above. I'm musician, scorer, actor, all that jazz, cinematographer, all that jazz. So I've constructed a basis of what that is, as well as the theme for the movie. I know Hollywood would never make this film. I know they would never make it. So I have to figure out what is the best way that I can get it to reach a level of high level distribution and maximize reach, profit, and while keeping in-house control, while also creating an equitable piece for people to involved with it, as well as creating a channel to help raise money for people through like a 501(c) through a nonprofit. This movie is as anti-Hollywood, at least as a Hollywood shuffle. So it's like you know what kind of time we on. So that kind of the idea, the intention, and I wanted to get your thoughts from y'all. I appreciate y'all for this. I have been following you for some time. I'm looking forward to your book, your Pocket Filmmaker, but I'm looking forward to that.
Well, congratulations. It sounds like a really incredible project. I again will say, like, yeah, like the $100,000 type films, I don't even know where to begin to think how to get that type of money. I will say, for a project that is, I will also caveat that, like, I don't make films for money. So I'm not sure how to make something profitable. I'm not sure how to make something marketable. But I will say, if you have a multi-layered project that is that has a lot of components, a pitch deck is really crucial, because an elevator pitch is hard if there's like 7 different legs to your project, and it's hard for people to keep up with like what exactly, like what is the succinct version of that. And so I love pitch decks. I have a pitch deck for all of my projects, but not for funders, for my peers. So kind of like we were talking about in the volunteer-based filmmaking workbook, where it's like, here's what you can offer. Actually saying like, this is the project, these are the components. You talked about the musical elements, the solving the homeless, or trying to contribute to solving the homelessness problem. Like, I think all of the components should have a section within your pitch deck. If you already
I do have a deck, and all of those
Okay.
components have been accounted for, and I'm constantly updating it. But I have accounted, I guess, mostly as far as like distribution and best way to like in-house control, like things like that. But I do agree with you. I definitely need to make sure that, because this is, even an elevator pitch can get weighted.
Yeah. I mean, distribution, the way that I've gone about it is quite literally just reaching out to distributors myself. A lot of, at least for my documentaries, those are distributed through Alexander Street, ProQuest, which is an educational library distributor. Same with Women Make Movies, educational library distributor. Quelly TV, the short films, those on those websites, they actually have like submissions. Like you can actually submit the final film to them for their team to review. And if they're interested, they'll set up a call and talk next steps. For self-distribution, there's also aggregators. So how I got my film on Tubi was through Film Hub. So aggregators, they have contracts with dozens of distributors, distribution sites. You submit your film to them if they're interested. Not even if they're interested, like you can upload your film and then give them like the closed captions, all the criteria. They will pitch it to those distributors, and the distributors from there will pick up what they are interested in. So they have like quarterly reviews with these platforms, and they are like, here's the films that are available, and they pick it up. So that's how 2 of my films got on Tubi, is through an aggregator. They don't pay like upfront. It's all based on streams. So the unless you have a built-in audience of like hundreds of thousands of people watching this, it's going to be hard to see any sort of profit on this because it is based on the people who watch the film. It is streaming based only. So even if you have 500 people watching your film on Tubi, like that might be like $16, like at the end of the day. So it's, if your point in doing this is to get it on a platform that's easily accessible for people, go the aggregator route. But if you are trying to get a distribution deal and like profit from that, you might have to pitch to actual distributors, and each distributor has a different process.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to add more resources because I know even though we're trying to pack in a lot in an hour, and there's some unique strategies and methods for each and every one of your projects, but I do think, Mario, you have so much passion in your pitch, and I do love the idea and the premise. We did do a recent office hour with the distributor and producer at 8 Above, who went over different distribution methods, especially for social impact campaigns. So what you're going to do is something unique, and I love budget ranges of 100,000, 50,000. Like that's where I feel like a lot of our community lands within. And for social impact campaigns, it is a well fleshed out strategy, but you would need to align yourself with a 501c3 nonprofit. There is an amazing organization for homelessness, also youth recidivism. You can find out which nonprofit organization aligns the most with your story. They do partner with filmmakers. They do love working with storytellers because it helps their nonprofit organization get more funding, get more awareness for the issues that they have. And if they have an initiative that already sets up to solve the problem that you're trying to solve in your story, that is only going to further your whole message, right? So I think the first step is finding that nonprofit, reaching out to them, asking if they're willing to be a 501c3 fiscal sponsor for your film. With that fiscal sponsorship, you can accept donations, and they take a percentage of those donations that go towards their nonprofit. And then you also tell them about your story and ask them if they want anybody part of the leadership team to be involved in that film. From there, you can go on and work with their initiatives to make the change you want to make in the film, and also bring on more people that can create an impact strategy for the communities that you actually want to help and the localities you want to help them in. So it is a process, but I feel like you can do it. You're very passionate about it. So just keep sharing and keep reaching out to the nonprofits, and I feel like you'll start to see some leeway.
And cause-related films do very well. They do very, very well. My next project is a fiction podcast, And I've got a nonprofit, a global nonprofit organization that's partnering. They're not doing any funding, but they have a really big reach. And because we want to target it specifically to sex education programs, we're using them as a funnel. So nonprofits, some of them have money, others will be able to provide a lot of different things. I gave a pitch deck to them. The more succinct you could be, the better, because they are going through a lot of paperwork at all times. But cause-related films do, to Brittany's point, they do pretty well, because they want opportunities to get content or projects that amplify their already existing message, which is you're helping them in a way.
Right.
Okay.
And I would say this is a tip for everyone. When you have your treatments, your pitches, your elevator pitch, whatever, also have a one pager. That one pager is going to be literally your siren call, your calling card for them to want to ask for more material. Don't
Yeah.
just send the 20-40 page pitch deck.
They won't read it.
Figure out a way to have a one pager, which is basically title, logline, genre, comps, which is comparable films. The comparables should not just be because this film had a lot of Black people in it and my film has a lot of Black people in it. It's more of like, what is the tone? What are the little nuances, the genre bending that happens in this series that's similar to what I'm trying to do in my series? And also a movie poster or some artwork, something pretty to make them look at. You can hyperlink things in, but get a one pager, because that's going to help you so much when you're going into pitches and when you're pitching via email.
And with that one pager, making sure it's very clear how it's going to benefit them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because everybody thinks their movie is the greatest movie of all time and everybody's going to get behind it. But if you're pitching to an organization saying like, this is how it's going to help you. This is how this film is going to help you amplify your message. This film is going to whatever it is and make it specific to that organization. One pagers are great. Summaries, like, great.
I love them. All right, I feel like it's 7:58. I want to thank everyone for joining us. I do want to know, do you guys want to see more of these office hours with Zanah? We do have a new office hour every month with a different speaker on a different topic, ranging from strategies, styles, belief, professions within the film, TV, media industry. Our YouTube has past founder of, a film festival. We have a producer, a distributor. We also have a new tech startup that is making it easy for you to distribute your films online. So a new type of aggregator. With all this technology, there's so many new ways to find your audience. So use that as a resource, but I'm gonna say it again, connect with each other on WhatsApp and Facebook. I am not gonna send out your information just for privacy, but make sure that you're joining in those groups and on Twitter and Instagram. That's the best place you can be to find new talent. And yes, do you want to see this again? Should we bring Zanah back? I don't know. But
you can say no, it's okay. Some of the things that we were talking about is like weekend filmmaking. Like, are you guys interested in going over that? Like filmmaking with a full-time job? I get a lot of questions about like how to navigate that and like time management. Also, I do like a breakdown of my like exact film. Like, here's how I pulled off the feature for $20,000. Here's where the money came from. Here's what we had the students do. Like, here's how we made it happen. Here were the roles that were combined. So weekend filmmaking, how we pulled off a $20,000 feature, volunteer-based filmmaking. We have an episode and a workbook for that, but just going through like how to pitch to your peers. When we send out this deck, like let us know what topics, interest you guys, tweet us, holler at us, all the things.
Holler. Well, if there's anybody have a last 30-second statement, go ahead. If not,
just wanted to say thank you for the presentation and pretty much the podcast as well, or even just all this, because it's like a funnel. It's like if we're all like-minded people who want to just create for the sake of creation of art, love it, because I got to find folks who are in my area or even outside abroad. Like, we all have the same mindset. appreciate these little moments.
Yes, you are not
Absolutely.
alone.
Yes,
I-
you are not alone.
Can I see the deck? I missed all of that. I got here right when they did questions.
Oh yeah, we're
Okay,
gonna
we
email
have
it out.
recording.
Oh yeah, that too. We're gonna email the deck to everybody, and then we do have the recording.
You're gonna get everything, including a transcript that's probably gonna send to you after I close this call. So Otter AI is taking over. It's okay. It's fine. I will speak to Zeno soon, but thank you all. I hope to see you guys again. Another announcement is Minorities in Film. Last year, we launched our pop-up screening series, which is an indie way to get the word out about short films and to help our new partners learn more about talent, diverse talent in different areas. We had screening in LA, New York, and also we partnered with the Hong Kong Art Center. So we create newspapers to highlight your stories and also get them and disseminate them all over the world. This year, season 2 is coming, and you guys get the free sneak peek on what the theme is, so you know ahead of time. The theme is going to be future. So if you have anything that fits loosely, abstractly, kind of, sort of into that theme, start planning your submissions, because you're going to know when we open. Zanah was amazing to do the strategy for last year to get our word out, and we were featured in a Harvard Business Study. So this year, please consider submitting, because we are working on marketing strategies for each film. Minorities in Film Facebook and the WhatsApp group, you're going to get all of those information before it goes out. And also you'll get this recording transcript workbook at the end sometime tomorrow or before the end of the week. So thank you all for joining us.
Thanks,
It's been an
everyone.
amazing
Thank you so much.
evening.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Have a great night, everybody.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Happy New Year.
Bye.
Bye.
Happy New Year's.